Hi, future editor here. I have tried re-uploading this video 3 times, so just so you know, there is no original, Hazbin Hotel parts in here. It's basically just meant for you to listen to it and for you to understand what I think about it. And, just let me not waste your time anymore because this was a pain in the ass to try and make. Thank you and have a great day. Hello, and in this video we're going to be diving into Hazbin Hotel. You may have watched the new season and enjoyed it, or if you haven't, spoiler warning, you know. But in this video I'm going to be basically talking about it and giving you my unbiased review on the plot and the plot alone, because it is in my firm belief that art is absolutely suggestive, or yeah, it's what people think it is. So some art can be good, some art can be bad, it's whatever, right? Art is nothing but an interpretation of a story, okay? So, art isn't bad unless they decide to pull a One Punch Man, in which case it is then bad, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. Second of all, I'll show you as many clips as I can, but I don't know which clips are copyrighted or not, so you know, bleh. Also, I'm going to be giving each episode a grade, basically like we're in school. So like you have A, B, C, D, E, F, or no E. But basically I'll just be giving it those grades, and then you can see my overall opinion at the end, seeing, how high of a grade they got. Okay, so we leave off at when the news reporters, we just now know that they're being sponsored by Vox, and they're just being insane and whatever. So they're trying to get an interview with the Charlie Morningstar, and so you can see that after the invasion, there's a lot more people actually interested in the hotel. You can also see that Alister's staff is still broken. But yeah, and please mind like there being a little bit worse quality in these. I'm trying to make a good video, but I don't know the best way to do it because this is my first time making this kind of thing. Um, Vaggie is trying to change her name, and Alistair is just not being useful at all, which I do find actually funny. Okay, so we see these reporters with their bullshit. So the goal is basically just to annoy the hell out of the Hazbin Hotel crew as much as they can. So pretty soon they're gonna get a interview. Now, I really do like what they did with Angel. They're trying to get her more into therapy, or sorry, him more into therapy, and basically just get him to open up more. Now, after this, we see the Egg Boys, showing Charlie the statues they made of him, which this detail I genuinely do like, because it shows care about the character. Like they didn't just throw him away, which that is one thing I will say I did genuinely like about this entire season. After this, we cut to Vaggie and Charlie trying to talk about what's happening. Basically, we see that Charlie is overtly stressed and still trying to process everything. And Vaggie is just trying to comfort her and trying to tell her not to get ahead of herself, but she really doesn't care. She's trying, but she's majorly overworked, and so the stress is really getting to her, which Vox will immediately take advantage of because that's the type of person he is. You know, that's his basically entire business motto. And if you were guessing that Vox was going to be a more major player in this season, you were absolutely correct. Because many people were guessing that last season, like by the end of it, and yeah, they were actually correct. Next, we see Cherry mourning Serpentius' death and her ultimately just questioning why he would do it, as she sees barely any logic in what he has done, but she is still like interested in him romantically because she didn't really expect him to actually ever care. Because if you remember, he died, and we know he's in heaven, but they don't, which is the main part of this entire episode, is that is redemption even possible? And that's the thing that like Charlie is majorly worried about, because if redemption isn't possible, then her friend basically died for nothing. The next character we see is Baxter. I think that like he is ultimately underused in this story, as yeah, he's gonna contribute later on, but I don't think that they gave him enough screen time. Like they could have um gave him a bit more of a personality than what they did in the later episodes. You'll see what I mean. Also, I don't know if the video or just the audio itself of this music part is copyrighted. So, like, that'll be interesting to try and find out. But we're gonna see a dynamic of competition between the V's and the hotel a lot more. But it's not gonna be like really that competitive. Competitive. Like it's not gonna be like gang warfare, but it is gonna be basically corporate warfare. That's just the best way I could describe it. Because you see that, like, the V's, they don't really care about people. They just see, like, the potential talent in them, pay them for their labor, use them, and then ultimately, when they are done using them, then they'll just throw them out because that's really all they care about. That's their business motto. That's how they got so high up on the totem pole of power, is by basically using people. Now, what I mean by competition is that the hotel and the 3Vs both promise the same thing, but with the 3Vs, it's all conditional in whether or not they can make profit off of you, basically. But with the hotel, it's not conditional. The hotel rooms are absolutely free, and that is basically where the competition comes in, because you see this dynamic of, you know, who is better, which I do really like about what they've done with the story. Another detail I do genuinely like is that because the hotel only got famous after the slaughter of angels, that's what people mostly know them for, and that's really why a lot of people actually came to their hotel. Which, on another note of that, is actually why Nifty became famous. Which I really do like this scene in particular, because, like, oh look, she's famous, and this, like, tree girl literally asked her to stab her, and then she actually does it without hesitation. And that's so funny to me for no reason. Also, a plus equals 0.20. So, for example, if I said this episode was A plus, then the episode would be worth 4.20, basically. And if I said it was F minus, then it would be negative. For example, negative 0.20. I also like this scene because Alister just does nothing and just enjoys being an asshole. And we also, like, see Charlie's dad just coming in, helping her with her stress. Cut to the V's. We learn that Vox used to run a cult when he was alive on Earth. Now, they're basically planning a uprising on Heaven, which is basically the main goal of this entire season, is to conquer Heaven and rule not only Hell, but also, Heaven. Overall, I would say that this episode was really good, but it could have done like a little bit better. I would give it a B plus if I had to grade it. Also, when Vaggie leaves, Charlie is then immediately told about what happened to Penchus. And like this really is funny because you can see her face. It is like overtly stressed out. She did not plan for any of this, and this just doesn't help with her stress at all. Cut to the next episode, we see Serpentius being questioned for how he even entered heaven, and the people who are in what I assume is a heavenly council are losing their mind because they had no idea that any sinners could be redeemed at all, and so they're trying to figure out a way to justify his existence as well as being fearful of hell because they did slaughter thousands of them, and so more likely than not, they would want some sort of revenge for the slaughtering, basically. And like, you can see here, Lute is like just losing her mind. When Serpentius is finally calmed down by the Speaker of God coming and like assuring him that he won't be murdered for telling a story, he basically tells us that he was a inventor from London in 1888, and he was a hermit who really had nothing to do but just build things. But he enjoyed watching people, not in a creepy way, but as a way to feel more human himself. Now, the reason why he even went to hell is because he once saw what I presume to be Jack the Ripper killing a woman. And I don't know if the scene itself is too gory to show or not, but I'll just like take the risk, I guess. And in this scene, you can see that he did genuinely regret like not stepping in because after this murder, there were a lot more to follow. Like you'd see it in his very eyes that he does not want any of this. He didn't want any of this to happen. He didn't want people to die. You can see true fear. And the only reason why he is even in heaven in the first place is because he was willing to die for someone else. Basically, if you somehow don't know, he died when fighting Adam to protect his friends and Cherry. And because he wasn't spineless and he actually, like, you know, did what he wanted to do for the sake of someone else and not for the protection of his own life, I believe that is what redeemed him. Now, Lute is actually justifiably losing her mind because not only was she a war veteran who has seen a lot of people die, but also has been betrayed by many people, as well as, the loss of her entire arm, has just seen someone who she was actively trying to kill get into a place that she devoted her entire life, her entire existence towards protecting. See, and like many people don't think this is justified, but I do because like you have to think of it from the perspective of some general. You have to think of it militarily because she is a military leader. That's what she is. So I do think that her outburst is actually justified. Now, cut to Lilith, who is being told to keep her daughter in line by Loot. Um, a lot of people just feel like she doesn't really care about much at all. Like you can see Charlie calling and her immediately declining. But I think her like waiting and putting the phone down is symbolism for like her actually caring, but her not wanting to do anything yet. Cut to Serpentius and Emily. They're trying to like get Serpentius to fit in, as although he didn't have a warm welcome, they want him to feel at home in a very safe place. But Serpentius doesn't really like it because all he really wants is to be with his friends. And he doesn't really care much for what they have here. As well, he's an inventor. He likes to create things. He doesn't like being bored. He likes to do things for either his sake or the sake of others. He doesn't like being idle, basically. That's the type of person Serpentius is. And you can see that because his friends aren't here, he is bummed out because, well, he's alone again. And he hates being, like, he hates feeling truly alone. You see, he's a little bummed out. Also, here's a screenshot of Angel's sister. I forgot her name, but apparently she was a really good person, and that's why she's here. Now, when Angel supposedly will get redeemed, I would actually genuinely like to see an interaction between his sister and her. We see that Serpentius doesn't really like heaven because it isn't what he's wanted. It may be heaven, but it wasn't his heaven. And you can see that he's just like sad. He just doesn't want to be here. Then we get a cut to the speaker and Seraphim talking, and basically she regrets using the military for killing all of those people who could have been saved instead of murdered. We then cut back to losing her mind about how she can't do anything about, well, what just happened. So she punches a wall so hard that it cracks, and she starts to hallucinate, basically. She sees Adam, and basically this hallucination is telling her that she needs to take action instead of just doing nothing. And I like this could be foreshadowing for her probably trying to overthrow heaven. Now, in this scene, there is some like genuinely cool music. It's Doom-esque, and I wish I could like let you hear it, but like it is just so cool, and it gives you the feeling of like bloodlust, basically. That's basically the entirety of this episode. I would actually rate this episode higher than the last episode. I would give it an A just because of like how much it sets up to happen. Like I love the foreshadowing in this and the fact that I had to do less work. So we cut back to Charlie not only losing her mind, but also actually being very excited and running off to tell her friends. So, she does. Everyone's surprised because, well, what the hell? How did that actually happen? It worked? So, after this scene, everyone is also, like, somewhat happy for Serpentius because, yay, our friend got to heaven. Now, Charlie is considering doing an exclusive interview with Vox Step. Stek. Ste. Blah, blah. whatever. She's considering giving an invitation to an exclusive interview, which Faggy is strongly against because not only did she have zero evidence, but she also wasn't prepared at all for an actual proper, like, long-term interview that would probably be mentally stressing because she already was just going crazy. You can see it in her eyes. Cut Angel and Cherry Bomb talking. Cherry still misses him, and she's like, "What the fuck? How did he get into heaven?" Um, she's told that Baxter, the biologist, scientist guy, used to work with him. So, maybe she could go talk to him and pay him a visit. Cherry does actually go and talk to him, but she doesn't, like, she acts very casual. And I just love the chaoticness of the entire scene. Then cut back to, Charlie. The V's arrive really quickly, and then yada yada. They give her a really, like, large TV, and she also, like, not much really happens here except they just collect information and do some basic news reporter things by twisting her words during the interview. And so, yeah. So, Cherry Bomb comes to Baxter's lab, and it's revealed that he is a bioengineer for Vox Corp. Now, this part I don't like, but I'll, like, explain later when it comes up, because it's somewhat of a, plot hole. But basically, she just asked him who he was, and he was a bioengineer that used to work with Serpentius, and they basically stopped working together because his experiments were too cruel for his liking. After this entire thing, there was a, like, full-on song between Cherry Bomb and Serpentius, and I actually really do like this song because it's basically about one missing the other and vice versa. So I'm going to summarize what happens in the train scene because although I can give you some understanding of what happens, I can't truly do the scene justice for the amount of tension you can feel and, like, the amount of true emotions the characters display. So basically, Charlie and Husk want Angel to do something that he doesn't want to do, that he is not the most comfortable with, and so they are trying to get him redeemed on live camera, which obviously doesn't work because they don't understand the true formula of how, like, it worked with Serpentius. So what happens is that they push Angel too far, and basically they almost get Husk killed, but Angel saves him, and, like, Blackgg, because they got everything they wanted, basically just leave, and that's basically it, because now they have the news they came for. After the scene, Cherry Bomb is convinced to stay and decides to have a quick chat with Angel about what happened. Angel doesn't want to talk about his feelings. We can assume that Angel is happy that his friend is going to be staying with him. And that's basically the end of the episode. Personally, I would give this episode a A- because it was really good at setting multiple things up for the future, but it wasn't absolutely perfect. Simple. Oh yeah, and you may notice that my voice just sounds louder and more different. It's because I had a minor drop in morale. I got myself a bottle of Coke, and now I feel better. So yeah, expect a bit more energy from now on. Now Charlie is still, a bit pissy that Vox and his friends basically made her look like a joke. So she wants to do a live interview in this episode. Vaggie, of course, warns her because she isn't prepared because those things can take hours, if not days, to properly prepare for. And, like, she cares, and you can tell, but, like, Charlie just doesn't give a fuck. She's trying to, like, you can see it in her eyes that she tries to give a fuck, but, like, she is too focused on herself. And then we cut to Alister smoking, and with his wound still, there and his staff broken. So he would eventually, have to deal with that. He decides to sit down and have a chat with Lucifer, which honestly does nothing but just make him more pissy. So that's really it. Just makes him pissy, and he just says that he quits, but he can't really quit. So we cut to the interview between Charlie and Killjoy, and something funny to note about Killjoy's personality is that she does not care about most people, and she's also very, like, anti-LGBTQ, and she really just doesn't like Charlie. But the funny thing is that she's always trying to get into Vox's pants, even though he is gay. I am pretty sure he's gay, but, like, he's gay. I don't know if he's bi or whatever, but, like, we can confirm he is gay, to the least of it. Basically, that's really all there is to this part. Then we cut to Alister going to the cannibal town. He decides to have a meeting with his friend Rosie. They really don't talk about much except for the fact that his cane is broken and he wants to quit the hotel and he still has a scar that won't heal. Now, Alistair is mad that he isn't the most powerful sinner in all of hell anymore. So he told her that he decided to quit. She reminds him that it isn't really up to him to do so. And basically, you remember when people thought that Lilith was a person who had power over him? It actually wasn't. It was her. And so we get a song like right after this. Well, no, not right after this, but like pretty close. It cuts to his backstory. He was basically just a handsome guy who used to be famous during radio. He was a killer, yada yada. He killed some people. He planned ahead. So there really isn't much else. So Alistair, after basically being told that she doesn't want to help him, basically finally relents and just decides to go outside for a walk, trying to figure out how he can help himself. And the one thing I genuinely do like about Alistair is how quick he is at thinking, because in less than like 5 seconds, he finds a way to win. He finds a way to get out of this predicament. This is the like one thing I love about this character is his genius. Mic check, mic check. Then we go to Alistair scrolling into town and just, calling out for Vox to come out. Now, not really much happens here, but we do learn that his two, well, I don't know if they're slaves or whatever, but his two, let's just say soldiers, Nifty and Husk, are surprisingly capable Here, you'll see when Vox's team and Alister's team start basically fighting. So basically, Nifty just drags Husk into the fight, and you can see that they are surprisingly competent in their fighting capabilities because like they can still hold their own and like still fight back because although they are basically soldiers, the main difference between Vox's team and Alice's team is that Vox's team are willing soldiers, basically. But Alistair really has nothing but slaves. And so he decides to make a deal with Vox. His deal is simple, and it gives two conditions. One is that his soldiers are allowed to live, and that he is not allowed to touch Charlie Morningstar, and in return he is willing to be his captive so long as those two conditions are met. Vox, of course, immediately takes this deal with barely any consideration because this is basically what he's dreamed about for years to come, and we'll soon know why, basically. But this has this would basically be someone winning like a Grammy or something. That's the best way I could compare it to something, okay? And so he just parades Alistair around the town saying that he wins and he's the best. That's really all he does. Now after that, um, basically Alistair's goal is just to keep yapping Vox's ear off. And is it just me, or does this scene give me like yandere vibes? Because like, look at how he twists his head. Look, that is so like creepy. Anyway, so we get a flashback to when Vox was younger, yada yada. He had less power, and those two were starting to like respect each other, yada yada. Okay, and you can see that Vox might actually be interested in like dating Alistair. Like he might actually have a romantic feelings for him. And he wants to do a partnership with him, like actual friendship. Like he sees it as fair and equal, but Alistair doesn't care. He does not care one singular bit. He laughs at him like right in his face. He seriously does not care. Look at him. He's just laughing. He does not care. This is the main contrast between their two personalities. Difference between Fox and Alistair is that Alistair is a genuine psychopath. How do I know? Because I used to be almost a full-on psychopath. You can tell he does not care. He literally couldn't give less of a shit. He thinks that power is acquired through absolute domination and control. But Vox, like, look at him. He is still an innocent person. He's still, like, look, he feels genuinely betrayed. You see these feelings, and you have to at least somewhat sympathize for him. Now you can see that this has developed into an unhealthy obsession with Alistair, clearly pointed out by Valentino, because, he feels like he's on top of the world. He feels like he is the new king. I would personally say that this is the first episode truly deserving of a A+ rank because of like the genuine emotions you can feel. You can feel the raw hatred, obsession, and everything. And that makes this like episode genuinely amongst the best in the entire show. Like this episode would be something that is gonna be a lot more memorable than like episode 2, right? And so yeah, this project has been taking a lot of time. Not to say I'm not enjoying it, but it is taking a rather large time to attempt to complete. Anyway, so we open with, you know, Hell realizing that Vox still matters, and there's just an entire musical with the overlords basically wanting to collaborate with him. It's really nothing, just like now Vox has the support of the overlords as well as Camilla Carmine, but he does need to get like a special apology. He does try to like get it during the musical, but he couldn't really because he kind of came off as racist. I'll show you the clip like right now. It is actually funny as hell. I also love that Valentino's just in the background, really, really like annoyed. You can see his disappointment. That is honestly one of my favorite jokes of the entire series. But yeah, so they basically have support from the Overlords of Hell. Now, they don't need too much else except for the entirety of, well, whatever's left. So we cut to Charlie trying to get Heaven's attention, failing, and then Vaggie is trying to comfort her. Not much really happens except well, not there. Charlie's just wondering why the hell Alister got himself caught. A little bit later on, we find out that they're doing group therapy sessions, which Angel doesn't go to because he tends to have a lot of stuff to do, so he's always busy. Baxter just likes going because he enjoys the, well, rather fruitful amount of insults for calling someone an idiot he can find Husk saying. And, like, I don't think I have to say this, but this entire therapy session is just Husk calling these people idiots. There is no, like, actual therapy. He even questions if he's doing the therapy correctly. So we cut to Vaggie going into Lucifer's room where basically she says this so casually, but she's basically putting a hit on Vox. She's trying to ask Lucifer to just kill Vox, and it's revealed to us that he can't do that. Like, he isn't allowed to kill people because he's just that is his punishment. He is stuck here. He doesn't have any real power, and so what he does is just ignores people. He doesn't listen to the news. He doesn't like. Um, I mean, we know he watches duck romance TVs or whatever. But besides that, I'm pretty sure he just does not watch any single like news outlet there is, which is probably why he did not know that radio existed. So basically, what they're gonna do is try and just spook Vox into just, backing down. Then we cut forward towards the Seraphim having a conversation about basically what they are to do with Hell because she knows that Hell really hates them and she just looks so tired. But basically what they're gonna do now is try and ask for forgiveness instead of simply killing all of them. Serpentius just doesn't, like, isn't allowed to go, which I feel like if he was, would have genuinely helped in Charlie's case. So they finally get there, and then it's just Charlie telling them, "Hi, thank you, I've been trying to contact you for literal hours. I'm dehydrated as all hell." And she was even hallucinating that they were there. So basically, she tells them to go to Vox's concert or whatever he's hosting, crash it, and just tell people that, like, hey, no, we're sorry, and, like, this whole redemption thing is good, and, like, just try it. Please don't kill us. Cut to whatever Vox is doing, and he's basically just dressing up, trying to look good to put on a show. And all Alister is really doing ever since he got here was just try and get under Vox's skin, because for some reason Vox just hasn't executed him yet. I don't know. I mean, I think that, like, maybe his goal is to try and convince him to join them, like, fully. I don't know why he would even keep him alive, because I genuinely do think that it would be really easy just to execute him. Like, why are you keeping him alive? He is your downfall. He is the guy who... Oh yeah, right, he has an obsession with him. Right, that's why he's only keeping him alive. And it's also because of this obsession that Alister is easily starting to drive a wedge into, was it, the 3V's relationship, which was honestly his plan all along. And it's actually starting to properly work because you can see that there's starting to be some instability between them. But it's not really that big of an issue until later on. So next thing we know, Lucifer arrives and is basically a terrorist because, he's trying to convince people to follow some political ideology and or do things out of fear. This is the definition of terrorism. He's using fear to try and make Vox back down. You know. And this was like pretty dumb, but from his perspective it is somewhat understandable as he is trying to help out his daughter. But the one main gripe I have about this is that he did not have the foresight to contact his daughter. Sorry, I'm burping or whatever. Another key note to detail is how confident Vox is in not getting his head chopped off, which means that he may have had some insider information within the hotel. When I was first watching this, I thought maybe the rather large TV he gave them as a gift was simply spyware. Sorry, I'm eating food. I like blueberries. Anyway, so he uses this as basically a way to rally up the others and basically say that they need to overthrow the king because he has done nothing but repress them, and Vox and his allies have done nothing but to, help each other out. So now Vox is very confident and happy with himself for what he has done because he's basically secured a lot of power for himself. But the second the Seraphim and the others show up, he is immediately struck with fear as he genuinely believes that he will die. Because, like, look at this. Why wouldn't you be scared? There is an exorcist, a general exorcist. I don't know how the military ranking would work, but let's just assume that Lou is either a high-ranking lieutenant or general of the army. Anyway, so they say that they're sorry for killing you, blah blah blah, but Vox makes it sound like they really couldn't give less of a shit, and that their apologies are useless because Vox is technically correct in that they did commit mass genocide, and they are trying to basically apologize with basically nothing of value. And, like, yeah, if I was in that political speech, I would absolutely be behind Vox because, like, imagine your entire people have been slaughtered. Not everyone, but most of them have been getting ruthlessly murdered by these people from another place who you don't even know or care about. So of course you would have immense hatred and immediate distrust for whatever they say. And also, Lucifer saying, like, he's gonna kill him definitely didn't help because of the correlation that Lucifer, although he is a fallen angel, he is still, by all means, an angel and an authority figure that Vox used against the, you know, people trying to not get all the sinners murdered. Now, the Seraphim, who is rightfully stressed out, loses her control and basically says that she does not regret allowing for the mass extermination. And, like, yeah, her rage is understandable, but she definitely did not play her cards right because all she did was basically fuel a bigger fire that would have accommodated in nothing more than basically more power to the war engine that Vox was attempting to create. Oh yeah, and another thing to note is that during his song he uses the word Führer, and he also uses like words that would be the same as basically a dictatorship. That's basically what I believe they're gonna try and become if they do actually get enough power to overthrow heaven. Once they retreat, you can see that Lute is actually happy about this outcome because this means that she might get the opportunity to kill more demons. And like they're all, or well, Emily is just saying sorry to Pensius on that they couldn't do good enough. Then we get a cut to the hotel. You can see all these people leaving, and you also see the one girl that got stabbed. Her injuries aren't there anymore. But anyway, that happens. And then Charlie comes in, being all mad as hell because she saw her father in that place who basically ruined all of this. Now, her father basically just says that, oh, I did this because I thought it would help you, yada yada. And so that results in a combination of him technically getting kicked out. And he also does tell her about, like, it was Vaggie. So that now, Charlie's mad at Vaggie and her father. And yada yada, everyone's stressed now. Another thing to note is that this might be the first time we see Vaggie like heavily drinking. I don't remember if we've ever seen any other like time when she has drunken alcohol. Personally, I would give this episode a B plus as it wasn't bad by all means, and it did set up more like for the future and whatnot, but still, it's starting to leave a bit more to be craved than to be answered. Next episode, we start off with Vox trying to convince Carmilla Carmine to basically allow him to use technology that she creates to help fund, or well, to help supply the war effort. She really doesn't want to do this because she thinks that this will ultimately do nothing but harm her, or the people that she is loyal to. Now, this is interesting because later on she does submit and like give in to Vox's demands in building a super weapon for the war effort. She really did not want to do this until Vox technically or basically blackmailed her into doing it. We also can see some tension growing between Velvet and Vox as she is rightfully pissed off at him for trying, or well, forcing her to give a proper apology instead of just being told that she just probably needs a fake one. Cut to Zestiel and Carmilla. They're talking, like, Zestiel doesn't like that he gave up so easily, so he basically just leaves until Carmilla basically gets her mind straight and doesn't work for Vox anymore. On the news, it's shown that, you know, Carmilla and Vox are now working together for the war effort. Now, Charlie and Vaggie are still, like, annoyed at each other. And so this just, like, pisses Husk off to the point where he just says, I quit. And this actually did surprise the both of them because he already told him to quit the high school shit, but he just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So he just goes out to a casino, which actually comes on to one of my most favorite songs in the entire series. I don't know what it's called. I'm pretty sure it's called Love in a Bottle, but it's all it is just him gambling in a casino. I wish I could play, like, the music for it. Just like, you know, it would be cool if I could, but I don't know if it is copyright. I'm gonna guess it's just copyrighted. Oh yeah, and the crew just figures out that, they teamed up and yada yada. So now Charlie and Vaggie are going to be going to Carmilla, and they're just basically gonna try and talk it out, saying, why the hell did you join her? After Husk gets done drinking himself and just doing a bit more gambling, after losing a lot, he basically just decides to sit down and get even drunker. And then we then go to Carmilla. So now it's Charlie and Vaggie basically trying to convince Carmilla to stop helping Vox, but they're already too late as, well, she proclaimed that the only reason why she is helping Vox is because it is in favor of the life, or it's basically in favor of keeping the ones she really cares about alive, and she said that that's the only reason why she helped Vaggie and Charlie in the first place. And so she sees no way that they could protect her children and friends at the same time during the war, as well there already is a war, and she says that heaven isn't gonna just back down. Also, Vaggie has a PTSD moment, which is kind of gruesome. It's just showing her getting picked on, yada yada. And then we cut to another song, which I wish I could, like, show you guys, because this is, like, these two songs back to back are one of my favorite ones in the entire series. So, we're back at the casino, and there's really not much else to do, but, God, I'm gonna kill myself. So Angel just basically performs a really long song. Cut to Vox and Valentino. Not much is really happening except Vox is trying to convince Valentino to let him use Angel Dust, basically. And the others just clown him for it, basically. Because, like, they're not really focusing on him, and this is also, like, this is proof of him showing that he's only doing things when it is in favor to what he wants, and he also does act forceful when Alister calls him out on this to Valentino just to show that, like, he isn't weak and that he doesn't absolutely rely on others. And then Valentino immediately shuts that down because he doesn't like that. Also, if you've been paying attention and or you've just watched the show already, you can see that Baxter and I forgot her name, god damn it. Nifty. how did I forget that? Anyway, Dexter and Nifty have started to become closer friends. And then, Vaggie just comes up to Charlie's room and decides, maybe I shouldn't be an asshole. So they decide to just, talk it out. And, like, Charlie admits that she has been a bit stressed and hasn't been taking her girlfriend's advice seriously. So basically, they make up, and she even made a cake, which was actually kind of sweet of her. Then we get Angel and Husk talking, and basically what happens is Husk tells Angel that he decided to quit the hotel, and Angel was actually really surprised by this because he really didn't expect it, but he also realized that without Alister, there was really no major reason for Husk to stay there. And then he gets a call that just tells him he has to go do work somewhere. And they do bond over here, like they become closer friends. And this leads to Angel convincing Husk to basically come back and work for the hotel. Now, when Angel gets to the place, sorry. Now, after some mild, I do say mild lightly, after some mild abuse from Valentino, we finally learn that Angel was just under control, which is how Vox even knew, like, how he couldn't die, basically, from Lucifer, which was honestly genius. And um, I really like the cliffhanger of basically Lucifer going into someplace unknown. I think that was like we I got what I wanted, which was basically action as well as a bit more like foreshadowing, which was like legitimately one of the best things I think could have been done. And I would give this episode a genuine A plus. Like I think it is that good. Now, after some mild, and I do say mild lightly, abuse from Vox, we learn like why he wasn't shivering himself at the very sight of Lucifer coming to basically kill him. We learn that Angel was a unwilling spy who basically got CIA mind controlled. My opinion about this episode is that it was perfect. It gave basically what we wanted. It gave action, it gave like it explained to us how things happened in the past and also gave us a bit more foreshadowing as to what was to come with the relationship between the three V's. And this would be interesting as like seeing what's going to happen with Angel's like sanity because not only is he dealing with Valentino's stuff, but he's also realizing how weak he really is and like how much little power he has over his life because Vox has been controlling him and using him as a unwilling spy for what a long time, which this actually makes a lot more sense as to why like if Valentino just didn't want him to be associated with the hotel, he didn't just ice him immediately. It's because he was a spy, and it is such like I say, it is really good because it fills that plot hole. And so that's why I would give this episode an A plus. I think it is that good. Next episode, we open up with Lucifer going into the place that Fox sent him. It is then where were revealed that like it was a trap, yada yada. Well, we knew this, Lucifer didn't, but we basically figure out that he wants to use Lucifer for energy, which I don't know how that would work lore-wise, because, like, yeah, he created fire and whatever during his, like, intro or something, during his song, but, like, since when was he himself a power source? Like, what was angelic blood? I don't know, condensed energy or something? We're never told this. From what I understand, we're never, like, told how this works properly. And also, another gripe I do have is that we never even knew that Vox could change his voice. Like, yeah, we could assume it since he is part technology that he should be able to, but we were never given any hints as to if he could do this. I wouldn't consider this lazy writing, I was just, I don't know, I'd consider this something they probably just didn't think about for too long. Anyway, Vox, who just got told that he was garbage, got mad at that, and so he basically just shoved Lucifer into his gun. So he's like mad about this, and then we get a backstory song, which was basically he was working for a news outlet, and basically he just murdered his way to the top. Now, the one thing I do have to question is how the hell did no one notice that everyone was being eliminated that strategically? Like, everyone that was higher up than him was getting murdered. The people who, like, you know, had higher jobs, because there should have been at least some pattern that could have been noticed. I don't know, maybe he was just really good at covering it up. But I will say, like, I genuinely do love how much effort it feels like goes into all of these songs that they make. Like, I love, that's the one of the things I genuinely do enjoy about this entire series is, yes, there are a rather handful of songs, but each song does feel like it has genuine, like, passion behind it. Like, if the songs have a lot of emotion and they're really good at conveying the character's feelings, but I do feel as if they are slightly overused. Also, this was the cult that he was running that basically just he had a lot of power over, which is also when he gets killed, which is a really gruesome death, honestly. Like, to have a TV that's active crushing your head would definitely be very scarring. But he seems to just brush it off. Cut to Charlie and Vaggie. Charlie thinks that she was a bit too harsh on his dad because now he isn't replying to him, even though his dad is known for being somewhat lonely of a person, and so he would usually tend to immediately respond. And like later on, she calls her mom, which Vox immediately picks up as like imitating, or not imitating, but like he somehow acquires the signal, picks it up, and then just yada yada. Oh yeah, and they did use Angel, like, you know, this is him not really having any power, so he was also used as something for their political campaign of starting a war. And the funny thing about his entire campaign is that Vox says this was all for Lilith, and that Lilith's dream was for a better world for her people. And yeah, that is partially true, but he is twisting her words to a point that it's basically just more political campaigning. Anyway, so they shoot the large super weapon that's being powered by Lucifer, and this breaks the gates of heaven and sends it flying back down to Earth. Now, the one thing I do like about this scene is the symbolism, because like you see all these people panicking, but when the door like breaks, it flies back down to hell at such a speed, and it destroys the like timer that tells people when the next extermination happens. So I think that they might have gone for symbolism that like they no longer want to be executed. And also another thing to note is that he did not tell Velvet that he was going to shoot the cannon, and he did not tell them how much power it truly had. Another gripe I do also have is how did Vox even like, you know, portray himself on Heaven's like, signal? Like how did he do that? How do you even understand their technology to that point is somewhat of a mystery to me. Anyway, Heaven is in a mass state of despair because they have no idea what to do, as they would like to resolve this peacefully, but they're starting to think that military actions might be necessary for their own safety after their basically war crimes of mass genocide, and everyone is just bothering the hell out of the Seraphim. And also another thing we do learn is that Emily is the Seraphim's sister. Uh, Um, like a lot of people tended to get the vibe that Emily was the daughter of the Seraphim. So when the Seraphim leaves, Serpentius tries to comfort her and tries to help her understand why people are doing what they're doing, and he's also trying to calm her down as she does seem extremely tense and stressed. This talk no jutsu actually works and convinces the Seraphim to actually like be a bit more energetic and happy because her job is one that of extreme importance and definitely would drive a lot of people insane, as she's basically the president of heaven for all eternity, and I would of course imagine that that burden is extremely heavy to bear. Next we get a cut to Vox, and basically he did not tell Velvet that like it was gonna be this powerful, and he basically didn't give her any time to prepare, to capitalize on it, which she did not like at all. Again, this is just building on the plot that is the wedge in between the three V's. Anyway, so Velvet tells Vox that Valentino doesn't really like what he's doing. He says that he really couldn't give less of a shit because he is, I mean, for all means, he is stressed about this, but he is also heavily excited by this because, this is his big campaign, basically. He is starting a war after all. Anyway, so he basically orders Velvet not to worry about this and to just rally up more support, as well as to get Valentino just to look good during their next thing. Alister just, annoys him a bit more, trying to convince him to break the deal that they made. He unsurprisingly just falls for it without even thinking that much, because he thinks that if he can get the endorsement of Charlie, then all of hell would be on his side and the war's victory would be basically guaranteed, which he isn't too wrong about, because of course it is all of hell and they have been told that they do outnumber him. But the one like main concern is how they even have enough weapons to handle all of this. Because yes, they have someone making weapons, but the the amount of employees they have, I genuinely don't think is enough to output enough weapons to actually properly equip the war. Anyway, so Lute is told to prepare the troops for defensive positioning, and Emily is told to go down there and attempt to negotiate peace before they come knocking at Hell's doorsteps, or Heaven's doorsteps, because they ultimately don't want any violence, even though they did, commit mass genocide. Cherry and Husk want to launch a campaign to try and get Angel back before the actual invasion of Heaven starts. Baxter is against this because he thinks that it wouldn't be worth their time because they need to reinforce the hotel before things get messy. And yeah, he is right about that. Like if you think about it strategically. And this is where he gets a call, or well, Charlie gets a call from Vox imitating his mom. And I'm questioning how he picked up on that signal. Like is it the TV or whatever? Like how did he acquire that signal so fast? Whatever. Anyway, this is where he convinces her to basically come by to the V Tower to attempt to find his dad because he did basically kidnap his dad and used him as an energy source. And also another thing I kind of don't like about what they did with Baxter's character is that they made him both a technical engineer, or well, a technical genius, and a biology engineer. Yeah, a bio whatever. But basically, I think that they could have used a bit more foreshadowing as to his technical expertise because, yes, although he was smart, we never really even knew he had that much technological knowledge behind him. And even if he could hack things professionally, I think they could have, set that up a bit more before telling us that he was this technical genius who could basically hack almost any system. Anyway, so Heaven talks with Hell a bit more, and Serpentius is finally excited because he is told that he can actually build something for once because they want to do a major broadcast showing that Serpentius is alive and redeemed in heaven for the main purpose of ultimately trying to stop the war before it gets way too out of hand. Then we cut to the V's and just Vox is gloating to Alister about how he will win and how he will have ultimate power. Valentino genuinely does care for him and is starting to feel sad that he might get left alone. And the one interesting thing about the V's is that they do genuinely care about each other. Like they're basically friends. They're all good friends to each other. And they do worry about each other. Like they're not just conniving business partners. They do actually care somewhat for each other, even though it might be a bit crude. But they have actual care. I would give this episode a B as it is starting to over rely a bit much on the music and not telling us things. But it should still be interesting enough. So that's why this would be the first episode to be getting a B instead of anything higher. Now we're in the final episode of Hazbin Hotel Season 2. They are going to be planning to basically infiltrate the V's tower, and I will say I do like this cartoony background that they're doing. It may have just been a way to save on animation, but I will say I do like it. I also like the heist vibe they're giving. I will say that is kind of cool. But that's really all they're doing is planning for, the meetup. And I'm still a bit annoyed on, how the hell does Baxter have any technical mastery? But still. Oh, and another thing I do have to note is that there is no mention of what the other overlords have to gain from basically supporting this war. into happening in the first place. As well, what are they gonna get again? The V's may be trying to conquer heaven and whatever, but what do the overlords get? They don't want to be weaker, they want more power, they want more land. It's what they want. Their greed, basically. You have to satisfy those. And there was never any true mention of, well, people getting what they wanted. Except for, the three V's. Anyway, so Charlie and Vaggie go to the meetup place, and Vox is actually very happy about this, because, he wanted her to come here, and he wanted her to, or he was either going to force her to endorse him, or convince her to endorse him either way. Which, the way he was just talking shit right in front of her, I was going to just force her hand. We also see Carmilla Carmine saying that she won't help Vaggie in destroying the super weapon that was built and is currently being powered by Lucifer's. Anyway, the rest of them start to sneak in, and another gripe I also have is, why is it that, Baxter's keycard can open so much if he's only supposed to be a bioengineer working at some far off place? I don't think a bioengineer should have any clearance to go to any, technical facility at all, but still. Husk and Cherry find Angel in a very delirious state, and so they're gonna be trying to, take care of him and, save his ass before the war even continues. So somehow Baxter manages to hack the entirety of the facility in such a very short time. And another thing I also don't like about what Charlie did is she gloated that it was her. Like, I was gonna say, Baxter didn't need to do that. He didn't need to shut everything down. All he really needed was just to hack in. He didn't need to tell anyone about what he did. And so this prompting, Fox to take action, he also decides to combat this by trying to go and kill them. So now Charlie is upstage trying to give her whole little talk about, Serpentius and how he was redeemed, but this really doesn't go that well because they cannot connect the, two signals together for Serpentius to communicate yet. Charlie also gets interrupted in the middle of her speech by Vox, and I really do like this gig where he's just muted by Baxter. I did find that actually funny as hell. Nifty and Baxter get interrupted by Velvet, who is just trying to protect her friends from some people who she doesn't really care about, who basically just snuck on and are trying to break her shit. Cherry and Husk, after basically kidnapping Angel, are soon discovered by Valentino, and so they have a brief yet actually interesting standoff, or not standoff, but basically just a fight between them. I will say I do like a couple of the lines from here, and also one thing to mention mid-fight was when Valentino punches Husk, and it's like you see it, and you wouldn't expect someone like Valentino to actually have much muscle behind him, but we do see him having relatively like good firearms control. Like he's good at controlling the recoil, so maybe his profession maybe helped in that because of all the training. Anyway, pretty soon we understand how far gone Angel Dust has gone because pretty soon we find out how far gone Angel just has, well, gone mentally because he is literally choking out his own friends, and he wasn't even aware of it until Husk just punches him in the neck. Anyway, so then they just beat Valentino by blowing him out of his own window. And, like, I'm also questioning how they didn't get damaged during this because, it was a relatively large explosion. Because, like, yeah, it's pretty cool that Husk can do this magic, but we never see the consequences of it to their friends. Anyway, we cut back to Vox and Charlie finally talking to each other, and they're basically having an argument about, like, the war itself, and Alister is basically just gassing up, telling Charlie to help with his ego because it's what he's wanted for the entire time. She basically asks him why the hell she would do that, and he reminds him of the little favor they had. And so once, he says this, he finally gets what he wants, which was, his freedom, as he is no longer considered the strongest sinner in all of hell. Which, yeah, I do think this was smart, but I'm also going to say that he did take a pretty large risk when he did this, because, like, during the entire process, Vox could have simply slit Alistair's throat and not cared, but I think he was definitely relying on his emotional instability to keep him alive and also to control him. Now, you know, when this all happens, he's freed and he is gonna basically kill everyone. Now, Vox being overcompetent, or now Vox being way too overconfident in his abilities, forgets the deal that he made with Alister, promptly touching Charlie on the shoulders, which frees Alister, which makes him laugh his ass off because he is not only no longer their prisoner, but now he got what he wanted, which was freedom from two people who were controlling him. And so now they finally decide to have their big fight. And I will say I do like that they did, restrict Alistair through basically half of the entire season, because Alistair is a pretty broken character, you know, because he's supposed to be the strongest in all of Hell. Also, they fight a little, and then Vox turns into this weird giant, like, monster thing, which I will say the design is actually really cool. Like, it makes him look like a monster, like an actual monster that you wouldn't think of as having any humanity left in him, which is basically what happens to him. Now we get a, like, scene where he calls for help from his pet, and to be honest, I never really understood why he liked sharks, but it could just be from that one point where he plotted an assassination attempt, and or it could just be that this is the same shark that was used to kill that one guy back then when he was still human. Cut back to the super weapon, and Vox is just shooting it randomly just in the hopes that it would kill Alister, and he's also, like, going insane. He's leveling multiple buildings, and it's easy to look at him as insane because why would he, like, if he was planning a war, why the hell would he have even shot at his own people? He probably should have killed, like, or destroyed Heaven before anything. And then we cut back to Nifty and Baxter trying to, hack their servers, and which they do actually pretty successfully. And then Nifty is finally able to, well, deal with her. And I don't know if it's an animation or not, but, like, she didn't have any clothes. I'm guessing it's probably one of her abilities that she can just make stuff reappear, because the next time we see her, she does have, like, her hair grow back and whatever. Also, yeah, no, the transmission is immediately disrupted by, Vox. Here you can see her, like, powers. She also frees Valentino from his constrictment, and, like, they see how insane Vox is going because he's just shooting basically randomly and he almost kills them. Vaggie, with the help of Carmilla, they don't like fully disable the weapon, but they do cripple it to the point where one more shot would absolutely obliterate most, if not everyone within its vicinity. And it is like later on stated that they do have, like, it has a very large range, so it would decimate a lot of people. Emily, after trying to basically save Alice from getting eaten, is hit with a stray blast. Or, yeah, technically stray. Anyway, so one of her wings is cut off, and this makes the Seraphim panic and makes her send the troops down. Or, well, make heavily consider that, because Serpentius convinces her to, like, at least wait a little bit longer. Anyway, Alister is almost hit with one of the shots from the cannon, but Emily tries to go and save him and is instead hit on one of her wings. This makes Seraphim panic and send out the troops to try and save Emily, and Serpentis is almost done with his communication device to talk to Hell and tell them that he is still alive. Now, Vox, after being warned that any other shot from the machine would completely level all of Hell, says that he doesn't care as long as the people who are right in front of him die, because he has gone completely insane now and loses his mind. He's crying when he does this, so he either like completely planned for this or is just going insane until Velvet just knocks him out of the cannon, and they like are really mad at him because they basically almost died for nothing. This also goes back to the thing where it's Fox trying to have all of the power instead of the three Vs working together, which they really do not like at all. And so he just rips his head off. And like, for sure thought that that would have killed him. I thought that that would have been the end of Fox. Like, I had no idea he would just survive from that. Anyway, so everyone's realizing that it's all over. It's very Jover. And then, Emily is just walking up to the bomb and trying to, like, this part, like, it's weird, because, like, it's giving Dragon Ball Z, or not Dragon Ball Z, it's whatever, it's basically the power of friendship wins, because after struggling to, get any energy out, their goal is to just make it go boom before it goes mega boom. So her, with like all the strength she has left after being shot, is trying to take care of the like bomb, and this like convinces her friends to actually try and help, which, like, what is this power? We don't know. We've never listened to this. Like, we've never seen this at all. What is this Kamehameha shit? I don't know what it is. We've never ever been elaborated on, like, at all. Anyway, Lute and Abel finally show up, but Abel does not want to do anything, like any actual fighting, because he realizes that if they do anything, they might just mess it up. And so Vaggie and Lute are starting to fight each other because, they really don't like each other, and Abel is just trying to gain some sense of control. And I actually do like what they did with him here. They like forced him into a very uncomfortable situation and made him like actually do things in a very like authoritative tone. Like they made him put her in line because she was definitely acting out of order because he is by all means the general of the army of, well, heaven, and she does have to listen to him by all means. And I really do like what they did here when he put on the mask because that was really cool. And I also like the like crippled thing, like her will to continue fighting. Technically, not technically, she just stops wanting to fight when told to, which does mean that she is a really loyal and good soldier. If, like, her uppers ever needed her to do something, she is absolutely willing to do it, which is one thing I really do like about the character. Anyway, Zestiel and Carmilla finally decide to do the Kamehameha thing, which is still not elaborated on. Everyone joins in on this except for Alister and Rosie, who are talking about Alister being a snake, and he convinces her to basically heal him and fix his staff at the same time, which I'm questioning how she even can. That might just be her overlord power or whatever, but like I'm pretty sure only angels should be able to heal that. It's weird. Yeah, but I still like what they did here because like it plays into the characters like interactions and it makes them feel a bit more human. But again, back to the Kamehameha thing they did, which basically grabs the bomb, throws it up into the air, and Velvet and Valentino decide to finally join in. And Vox is just a crippled little head, and you can hear in the background of this. I'm not gonna show it to you because copyright or whatever. But he's just screaming, "What the hell are you doing?" Because he did completely think that he was going to die. He planned on dying completely alone, like, and he's sad about this. That's actually really funny. Anyway, so the bomb goes kaplooey and everyone is saved with the power of friendship, which I'm not even lying to you, that is literally what the song was about. Like, that's why I called it Dragon Ball-esque. But yeah, the Overlord just agreed not to associate themselves with Vox ever again. And later on, um, the connection between heaven and hell finally goes through, and you can see Serpentius and Cherry Bomb actually talking because, Serpentius didn't know that they had already won. And, oh yeah, like, they still love each other, and, like, she isn't really mad at him, but she does, miss him a lot. Talk like she is like really mad at him, which I do find extremely comedic. After this, we also get a very emotional scene with Angel Dust saying that he never really had any choice and that he was a basically unwilling puppet for, the 3Vs. And so he basically, like in a very sad way, just says, "I'm sorry, please just leave me alone." Because he like really cares about his friends and he now views himself as nothing but a puppet. And I really love what they did with like his face here because like it is so perfect and I genuinely wish I could show you this because it does like a really great job at displaying the level of hatred Angel Dust probably has at himself for no longer being able to control anything because like he never really had a choice in being a spy, and he hates himself for not having any like capability to help his friends, which like I think would be a genuinely great thing because this would absolutely help in character development for season 3 Like, look at the eyes. Oh my god, it is so beautiful. Like, it is so good at, like, displaying these emotions. I do think that they're definitely going to lean a bit more into, not a bit more, they're definitely going to lean a lot more into either probably killing Valentino or just helping Angel Dust be a better person and not need Valentino anymore. Vaggie finally decides to settle on a name, being, Vaggie, which is why I've been calling her Vaggie for the entire time. Anyway, so throughout TV, it's shown that people no longer like Fox for what he did, but there's like 3Vs are probably still going to be a thing, but they might just like give Fox a weaker position and will probably never let him like have any power again because, they're smart, okay? They're business people. There's no way they wouldn't have survived this long if it wasn't for, you know, at least two of them being good. So, you know, they're probably not going to associate with him that much anymore in public because, it would be genuinely horrible for their reputation. Cut to Charlie talking to her mom and saying that they basically saved all of hell from getting murdered, as well as like heaven from, you know, a lot of people from there actually getting murdered, and she still hasn't like replied. But Charlie is still like, talking to her. And like when she puts the phone down, she finally calls back, which genuinely surprises Charlie. And before we can hear her voice, the scene just ends. Which I really do like because this basically, like, this is more assurance that we are gonna be getting a season 3, and also the cliffhanger was just fucking crazy. Like, we didn't even hear her voice, and that's definitely gonna be, like, a main focus for maybe 1 or 2 episodes in season 3. Anyway, so just in case you forgot, season 2 episode 1 I gave a B plus, which was worth 3.20. Season, or I'll just start episodes. Episode 2 I gave an A, which is 4.0. Episode 3, which was A minus, which is 3.80. Episode 4, which was 4.20, A plus. Episode 5, which was a B plus, I gave a 3.20. Episode 6, which was an A plus, I gave a 4.20. Episode 7, which got the lowest score of a B, which is 3.0. And then the final episode was a 4.20 A plus. So I tallied up all the numbers, and it was 29.60 divided by 8, which is how many episodes we had, and it gave it a total score of 30.70, which is just scratching an A minus, which is pretty good, honestly, for as shows go. That is a relatively high score. And that is it for this 1 hour and over 30-minute video. I hope you enjoyed. This was a pain to make because this was my first time actually creating something like this. And if you enjoyed, please subscribe to add to my torment because I do want to try and do this full time. But I am basically doing this as a side project to the main things in my life. Anyway, see ya, nerds.